When you set up your original page, we started off by, first of all, we didn't even mention the background. We just simply said body and type stuff in the body, and it was automatically a white background with black letters on it. Okay, so that was the original thing we did. But then I started introducing the style sheet in the body instruction. We had style equals code. And first thing we had was background color. Remember that? Background color. And then we gave it some color, whatever it happened to be. Let me just put that in. Background color. And colon. And you can do it any way you want, but if you did it, you might see the 1, 2, 3A or something like that. I think there are 6 in there. Remember that? Comments from here. So that semicolon is optional. The last one is optional. They don't require it. It's inside the quotes, by the way. It's just like a separator. Like if there was several things in a row, it would have separators of semicolons. Okay. So that's basically the style we've done so far. But supposing you had a picture you wanted to put in the background. You want to put a photograph or something, or a drawing. Well, the thing is, the problem with the drawings is you can put the drawing up there if you want. You can say, okay, I'm going to put a background of a drawing. But if you don't give it any specific instructions as to how you want that drawing to be, well, I'm going to show you the command in a second. What would happen is, here's your screen. Suppose you had a picture that was only like this big. What it would do is it would make tiles out of that picture. In other words, it would appear on your screen as many times as it could fit in. That's what would happen. It would take the picture and tile it because it's too small, so it just keeps repeating it over and over and over again, which is probably what you don't want. What you probably want is some picture to be in your background, and that's what we really want to do. So I'm going to show you the difference between that. If you just said a background, if you just want a background image, you get that. If you want a background image and you want it to cover the whole screen, then you can get that too. But you got to distinguish between those two. I'll talk about it in a second, more about that in a second. The thing is, you should think about a little bit about the fact that it appears on different people's screens. So you can't say, put this picture on my screen this size, because if you put it on the screen that size, someone else may have a different number of pixels. And what will happen is they'll end up with black space or something on the edges. So the best way to do it is to do it the official way. Say, put this background image up there and be sure it covers the entire screen. There's a way of doing that. And that's what you want to do. You just don't want to put a picture up there in 0 index and then put your stuff in front of it. That's not the way to do it. Put this on the background and it will be out of your way. You don't have to worry about when you put stuff in 0, it's going to go on top of it. This thing's smart enough to know that it's way in the background. It's not going to be, you can't get behind the background. It's going to always be in the background. But here's the biggest problem with the background picture before I even do one, is if you have, like our webpage for example, and I get dozens of pictures I'd love to put up on the webpage because they're all cool and they have different stuff. The problem is, if you have like mountains and trees and whatever, all kinds of stuff on your screen, you can't read anything. You can't find a color that actually does the job, because the thing is going from a dark to a light, black to blue, whatever background colors you have. And pretty soon you see that you just can't read the thing. It's really hard to read. You can't make the letters white, you can't make them black, you can't make them any color because nothing seems to show up. So the thing is, when you put pictures on a screen, this is part of the problem that comes up when you're doing any kind of layout work, no matter what it is, whether you're laying out a page for a magazine or whatever you're doing. You always have to worry that you create so much noise on the screen with your pictures or whatever you're putting in there, that the stuff you want to show them is actually destroyed by the noise. A classic was, in the old days, you can do it even now, you can make things blink if you want to, you make words blink. But you haven't seen anything like a page where things are blinking up and down and they're going all over the place and you're trying to figure out what's this page all about. The whole point of a web page is to deliver something. You're giving them some information or some experience or something. If the experience is just is like an LSD trip, fine. You can do that stuff. Just make it all whip around and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But if you're seriously trying to tell them something, you don't want that to be true. So you have to kind of be an editor or layout editor at the same time as your programmer when you're doing this stuff. Because when you set up your web page, you don't want this thing to do anything bad to you. Okay, so that out of the way, when you get a picture, be sure the picture is clear, doesn't have a lot of noise in it, so that when you put your words there, it'll actually be visible. So for example, if you had suppose you had a few trees or something. Well, if you put the trees at the bottom and you keep them kind of out of the way, then most of your words will be pretty clear. Or what I like to do, what I've done in the past, is I like to put the image like on one side, the mountains are over here with the trees or whatever, and all the words are over here. And that's the reason why you'll see in my web pages I always push things to the left. The reason why I don't push them to the right is because, first of all, I don't know how big their pages are going to be. I don't like that because I'm not sure then what's going to happen over both sides. I push to the left, I know the words are going to be exactly the way I put them there, because everybody has a left-hand side of the screen. Where it starts to get fuzzy is over on the right. If I tried to, for example, if I had a screen that was 2,000 characters wide, 2,000 pixels wide like this, and I put something at 1,900, 1,900 over here someplace, a dot over here someplace, a picture or something, it might fit in my screen, but supposing someone's only got a 1,500 wide screen, their pixels are 1,500 wide, what happens to that thing then? You see, on the right-hand side, things start to get out of, you start to lose the ability to put them where you want them, because the screens have different widths to them. But if you keep everything on the left, it will always work, because, provided the thing isn't too long, but it'll always work because everybody has a 0 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3. In the X position, you have all those things. Does that make sense? So therefore, that's more, I'm talking about layout stuff now more than anything else. So when you're laying a page out, you want to put a background on it, and you're going to put text on it. My advice to you is you can center the text if you want, that'll work, because it'll center on their page too. But if you put the noise too far to the, right here, too far to the middle, then when you put that center thing, it's going to bump into it right here, and you're going to have that same noise problem. You're not going to be able to read what they're saying. Okay, so it is kind of a problem. And the other thing is this, when you put a background on something, it doesn't scroll, it stays there, it's locked in position. So whatever you scroll, scrolls in front of it. And that's another situation you've got to think about. If you wanted to scroll the whole thing, we could do that, it can be done. But for our purposes, because of what I'm trying to accomplish ultimately, is I like to get the background locked down so that it is one thing, and then anyone that uses it's going to have that background. And I'll tell you ahead why we have to do that. When we do three-dimensional images and three-dimensional stuff where you're actually moving around doing all that stuff, as you guys probably know, it takes a bit of time for the computer to get all that stuff in. You got pictures, you got videos, you got stuff coming in. So normally what is good is to have a page that comes up immediately. It says, it says whatever you want. You stall them basically. If it's going to be like a Stephen King thing, you say, you're about to experience the most ghastly experience of your life, and it's over now for you. Just give them enough time to read that stuff. And this says click here. When they click here, while they're reading that stuff, the three-dimensional world is loading in the background. Okay, that's the trick, is you stall them for a little bit. So they won't open up the screen and see things go, boop, this is here, that's here, this is here, that's here. And it kind of ruins the feeling of the 3D image. So basically what I like to do is this solid screen that doesn't go anyplace is a good thing to get used to, is having a picture, no matter what it is, it's just something up in front of them so that they can actually deal with that for a couple of, usually on our machines at university it's pretty fast, but if you're out in the North Pole, for example, and you're not on cable of any kind, if you're DSL, I have DSL at home, and it takes, videos take a while to get going. And I'm jumping around here because these things are things that I might not say in the future, so I want to just say them once to be sure that I say them, so you just kind of hear them, you get it in your mind. When you put videos, we're going to be using videos very shortly. When you put a video up online and you bring it down and you're watching the thing, like you're watching YouTube, for example. YouTube's videos are not the original ones that are shot. It uploads. If you upload a video to YouTube, you'll notice it uploads. And then it spends some time up there working on the video. what it's doing is it's making it faster. It's still MP4, it's still the same format as you have, but what happens is it makes it much faster because it actually reduces the frame size so it can send information to you quickly. It wants to be able to send that information to you quickly. When you're doing a picture, it comes right in and it's there. No more transmission. The blinking lights on your modem stop. But if you're moving a video, that thing keeps blinking. The stuff keeps loading it up. So what they try to do is they try to get it into a cache, into a buffer, so that you'll never have the thing will move like this and it'll never stop and then start moving again. They try to get that stuff moving up there. And the only way to do that, because if you have a small cable coming in, or DSL, they want to be sure that you get all the information so you're not watching a discontinuous movie, so it's running constantly. So what happens is, when you take a video, MP4 video with your cell phone, and it's particularly with cell phones, they're very high quality videos, then what happens is you load it up to YouTube, you'll notice that it takes some time for them to change it into this other format, this slow format, faster format. So the problem is, in our 3D world, is we'll have videos all over the place. That's how the thing works. It's kind of like walls with videos showing on them. And in order to do that, we're loading up 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 videos, lots of stuff. But it doesn't upload the whole, it doesn't download the entire video to you. What it does is, it downloads a buffer loader. It throws you a bunch of stuff. This one throws you a bunch of stuff. Then it starts to show it to you. And of course, you see it much slower than it's transmitted. So what's happening is, as the thing is, to the computer, everything is moving in slow motion. To you, I mean, to you it's fast. To the computer, it's slow motion. And while it's doing that, it's going, give me some more. And he's pulling it. And so it's got little buffer loads in there that you're seeing. But the initial trip, the first thing you do is when you turn on your 3D world, you open it up, immediately all those videos, whatever you have to at least have some buffer load come in. So they immediately start throwing stuff at you, and one wall appears, and the other wall appears, and the other wall appears. It's just disconcerting, that's all. So, the bottom line is that what you want to do, and the reason why I'm doing this, is to be sure that you have the ability to say, stall this thing a little bit while we're doing the work behind the scenes to get it started off. Okay, that's where it's the slowest. Anyway, that's a little bit of a head trip there. So let me show you now how to put pictures on your screen, because I just showed you where they kind of go, but I didn't tell you how to do it. Same command as this right here. You know, I should always start way to the left so that I can do the entire line. Some of these lines get really out of control. So first thing I want to do is, we have a regular, we're going to do the whole program, HTML, and head, and slash head. You guys are wondering why I do this, is because if you see it enough times, it will become second nature to you. You won't have any problem. And by the way, if you take an HTML class from somebody, they'll do it entirely different. We're doing it for the consistency of the way I actually present this. I'm not showing any, believe me, there's a lot more to this than we're going to waste our time with, because we're going to do something different. And then you just have body right here. And then, you can just have anything you want. You can have hello. You have anything you please in the writing area here. Slash body. And slash HTML. Is there anything about any of that so far that you guys are uncomfortable with anything about? Is it okay? Does it all make sense with that? What would that program do?
It would just display.
It print out hello, right? Would it be in the middle, on the left, or right? Where would it be?
Top left.
Top left side, right? Just like you would write. Exactly. That's how it works. Okay. Now the question is, supposing I want to put a background behind this thing. Well, I'm going to take all this part out and I'm going to insert the background. Actually, I didn't have to do that. I don't have to do that, but that's okay. You do it with the body. The body is where you do it. In the body, whatever you do here in style will go across the entire body of the thing. So you start the style here, you say style. Okay. Now, the only reason why I like to keep up with these things is because if I write one thing, and then you go online, you see the program, and it does something a little bit different. I like to make sure that everything's exactly the same as I put it up. So I want to be consistent, so I'm going to do it with, I'm going to use the program to be sure that I put up what I intend to put up. Okay, so in this program what I did was style equals, can you read that's just style equals right there. Yeah, that's all I did. Okay, so I said background. In this case, we're talking about a background image. Colon. Now, if this was background color, we put the color there, right? We did that last time. We said the background color, it was the color right there. The background image in this case is URL open parentheses picture dot JPEG close semicolon. Right there. Now, if you have to write it exactly like this. This is the part that you fill in. Whatever picture you have, whatever the name of it is, goes right here. It could be something .ping if it was a ping picture, or .gif, or anything. It doesn't make a difference. But it has to be the name of your thing right here. No spaces.
Are there actually parentheses in the URL portion of this?
What?
Or does the parentheses actually show up and when you're actually typing it in, or is that just your
Put the parentheses there.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like some command I made up.
Okay.
URL, it's a freaking one. What it basically says is that this is where your picture is. It's possible to put a picture up there that's from someplace else. You could put truly a URL up there. Okay, like your picture's from some other site or something like that. You can do that if you want to. But for our purposes, let's keep it simple. That's a picture that's inside the folder where the program is. That's what we want to do. Okay, so suppose you have a picture of Billy, and the picture looks like this. This is Billy. That's what it looks like. If you ran this program, let me just put down, well, getting my own way here, right off the bat. How about, hello? Could have left those there. /body. /HTML. Now, if you get this picture of Billy, here it is, that's Billy, and if you did this, and this picture was small, like 500, 500 by 400 or something like pixels, what it would do is this, up on your screen. It would tile the things. In other words, your whole screen would have a bunch of these guys, which would be in the background. You'd have a whole screen load in your background. It would be the width that they are, whatever width they are, it would fit them into the screen. And that's what you'd have, which is probably what you don't want. Because when you do that, of course, you're going to get just one big blob of changing colors and changing everything. You're not going to be able to put anything in front of it. The word hello would come in front of it. But you can see that even on the board, you can see how crazy that looks. It just doesn't work out very well. Practically, no matter what color you make hello, it's not going to look very good because it's changing densities and colors. So, the question is, how do you make this thing do what you want it to do? How do you make it do this? Here's your screen, and here is Big Billy. That's what you really want, is that just one image to appear. Okay? So what you have to do is something a little different over here. Okay, you have to do That's all it takes. Now, you're going to see programs. When you guys go online, you always come across programs that have all kinds of other stuff. If you'll see someone has a background, the thing's covered, and you're going to see things like -sign, MOZ, and all kinds of things that are going to be up in this area. don't worry about that. The new HTML5 and with the new browsers, they all work the same way now. Basically, you only need this one thing. This is the only thing you need to actually make it cover the entire screen. There's nothing else you need. Okay, so then the picture will cover the screen. Then what happens is it'll say hello over here. You know, probably that picture's probably not a good one to do it with, but that's what it will do. And the hello will be in front, and that'll be the background image for you. Okay? Does that kind of make sense? So that's how you get a background image on there. As I say, the image, you can get it any place. All right. I spent a little bit of time on the website talking about transparency. And in fact, in class last time, did I create a transparency in this class? Oh, I just changed the size of something. Or did I can't remember if I actually live made a transparency. Did I make a transparency here?
I don't believe so, no.
You don't think so?
Correct, I don't believe so.
No, I think I had a video that showed how to do it. I have a video that shows how to do it. But I kind of like to do it in person, in real time here. You can put a transparency in front of a background too, if you want to. So for example, backgrounds, consider it to be at position 0. You could put an image at position 1, index 1, and you could have some kind of transparency, and you'd be able to see through to the background. Now, these things, you're thinking, well, yeah, that's interesting, but what are we doing that for? The reason why is because before we go into actual 3D, I'm going to show you that there's the possibility you can do animations on a regular screen. You don't see it very much, but you can actually make a regular HTML screen animate. You can make things rotate and move and do whatever you want. You can see through them, you can get behind each other. You can make a game up, just a simple game, just using the HTML code. And I'm going to show you how to do all that. Primarily because when you get to the actual 3D stuff, having done this other stuff, you kind of see what the program's doing. You understand what it's doing. Because it still is only 2 dimensions. I mean, it's still only a flat screen. And in the brain of the computer, it puts things in front of it. You know, it tells you, print. Do you know what the painter's algorithm is? Painter's algorithm works like this. When you put something down, like a picture of some kind, like this, you put down the back picture, and if you had a circle, you put the circle down, and it would cover up the back picture. And if you had like a triangle next, put it down, the triangle would cover up both of those pictures. So in other words, what the painter's algorithm says is you're always painting towards yourself. It came from the idea of someone painting themselves in a corner. You know, you stop painting the room and you go back and back and back and back. Finally, you're cornered. There's nowhere to go. Okay, it was kind of a little joke they had. But basically, the painter's algorithm in graphics, what it means is you start at the furthest most image, then you put one in front of it, one in front of it, one in front of it, one in front of it. If you're going to go forward like that, and if you have transparencies, you'll be able to see through them. And that's very important in 3D graphics because if you draw something, the front thing first, and then you draw the back thing, it's going to go right over it. So if I drew this thing before I drew that thing, it would look like this. No, the last thing you draw is the one that's up front. So they wanted to be sure that they had a language for that, so they could say, okay, we always start in the back and draw forward. Okay, we actually don't have to worry about that a lot, but we still have to think about it, especially when you're working with a 2-dimensional world where you're actually faking this Z index over here, just making believe it's there, because the thing that you draw last is the thing that's closest to the front normally, but we actually tell it. We tell it. We want that at a 0 position. We want this in the 1 position, this in the 2 position, this in the 3 position. By telling it that, we are doing something that no other graphics does. All other graphics does it the other way. We're actually telling it how deep to put it. Normally what happens is the last thing you draw is the things the furthest forward. Okay? So you got to remember that. And some of these, this is going to come up later when we get into stuff. But basically, there are some ideas that they worked out. And we have to just appreciate that they're there, that's all. Okay, so what this thing does is it creates the background size and creates the whole image. So if you just put this down, you put any image you want in there, it will be the background for you. And then whatever you do will go on top of that. Okay, what else I need here? Okay, pretty well, check that part out. Okay, now all this stuff we've been doing, everything in style is called CSS. It's a style sheet, okay? And all the stuff we've been doing here, whatever we've been doing here, is HTML. That's just the HTML. And now I'd like to introduce you to the world of JavaScript, which is a very weird world. It's a whole different universe. Okay. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to try to connect it to this one, put them together. JavaScript was invented after all the other stuff was invented. HTML was there, CSS was there, and JavaScript came in. At first, they weren't sure if they could do it. It actually was kind of a hard thing to do. The problem was this, that HTML already had a bunch of instructions, and if you wrote any other instructions, they would get in the way. In other words, how many instructions you're going to put in HTML already had a huge number of them. So what they did is they said, oh, here's what we'll do. We'll create an HTML instruction and a close instruction. And we'll say everything between these two instructions here is some other language. It's not the language we're using. It's some other language. So what they did is they made a hole in HTML so you could put your stuff in that hole. Okay, let me show you how it looks when you actually write it out. This part right here looks the same. I'm going to get rid of this slash head right here. I'm going to do this symbolically here. Then I should probably do it on the computer to do it in time. Basically, this part right here says head, right? And what I want to do is I want to put a chunk of JavaScript code in here. JavaScript. And I want to mention one more time that JavaScript and Java are not the same languages. So don't get a book on Java, whatever you do. It's the wrong language. And I wouldn't even get a book anyway. Online there are lots of JavaScript manuals if you want to just say whatever you're trying to find out and put the word JavaScript, it will give you everything you'd ever want to see. Then you have down here slash head. So what I've done is, I've now created a place for JavaScript. It's right in there. And then down here I have body. And in the body, I have instructions that go to JavaScript. I'm going to have some instructions. Now here's how the body works. The body has a program too. It's the HTML code, wherever it is. Slash body. Slash HTML. And the HTML code down here is it's whatever instructions we want to put in. And there are instructions that allow us to put input. They call it input. Okay, that's an instruction. It's just like head, body, HTML. They have an instruction called input. Okay. But what we're going to do is we're going to take that input instruction, we're going to put it in here. And that's going to allow the person at the computer to see a little square, a little rectangle they can type stuff into. And when they type stuff into it, then when they hit the return, they don't hit return, they hit a button. They'll hit a button. They'll hit something, a little button. It will kind of look like this. Here's what the screen looks like. We'll have a little place to put the information, and then a little button here to press. So they'll type in their information and hit a button. When they hit that button, whatever they typed into that square will be sent up to JavaScript. And then JavaScript, the program that we're going to write, is going to look at that stuff and do something with it. So you have to think all this through. This is how it kind of works. And then what happens is when it finally gets an answer, it calculates the answer, and then it sends the information back down here to another output area. Another one right there. So there's an input and an output, but they're both called input. Strangely, no matter if you're typing to it or from it, it's called input. It's called an input statement. So in other words, it goes from this input statement to JavaScript, and it comes back and comes out at the other input statement. You're going to have both of these guys are going to have names, and they're going to be identifiable as different things. It's like a variable. A goes in and B comes out, that kind of business. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to write the code down here that says, say something, you type it in, hit this button, you hit the button, and then what will happen is we'll have a little bit of code up here, JavaScript code, that will take that and we'll do something to it. I'll try to figure some, when I write the program online, we'll figure out something to do with it. And so what's going to happen is it's going to process it somehow, and then it's going to send the answer back down here. Now, that's the basis of how all the JavaScript, that's what we needed it for. We needed to do these things, whatever things we want done. it's possible, this, instead of this rectangle right there, we could have the program listening for us to say something. You know, hello, and the thing would hear us say hello. In other words, what would happen is we say hello verbally, we can have this design down, this input design, so that it goes right up to JavaScript and it hears immediately you said hello. We can do that. You can have it listen to your webcam, so that when you take your arms and go like that, they could say, ah, they took their arms and went like that. So in other words, whatever you are doing to the machine, we can write some code down here that will say, catch that, and go to JavaScript and process it. And then after you process it, come back and tell us whatever you want to do. Give us the answer. And that's the whole difference between HTML and what we've been doing so far, what HTML we've been doing so far, and this business here. This business requires this little guy up here, this JavaScript guy. It's up in the head, out of the way, nobody sees it, but actually down here you have things that you send information to it, and it sends information back to you. Is that pretty clear how that works? I mean, it's kind of just little boxes right now. But the idea that it isn't just the program that goes dit, 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 dit. Now what happens is you see what you see on the screen, you do something, as a user you do something, that information is taken to another little program and it does something with it, and then it sends the answer back to the screen. You see the answer on the screen. So the person using the program can actually see something happen. Okay? So that's what I want to do. I want to whip up a little program here to see if we can do that. And next week we'll be getting into this full bore, and I think we pretty well of the things I wanted to cover. As you see, I covered very much HTML because there's only a little bit of what we need. We just need enough to get started off. This right now is going to be HTML, by the way, but HTML is going to help us go to JavaScript. It's going to help us talk to JavaScript. Okay. So let me get this thing operational here and we'll talk about it. Last time I didn't do a very good job with the camera. I'll try to do a little better this time. I'm going to look for a program here that will be good for us to look at to start with. Let me see what Convert does here. Try that one. It's not too bad. Okay, it's got a few things in it, but we'll talk about them as we go. Do you, let me shut this down. Can you read that? Want to make it bigger? Is it okay?
Seems okay.
Very good. You okay? Especially in the back there.
Do you know which one I talk to?
What?
You know which one I talk to?
It's up to you. Do you want? Does it make a difference to you? No fooling around now. Wait a minute. Maybe they don't let us do that. Is that better?
That's much better.
Okay. All right. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm actually showing you a program that runs and does a bunch of stuff. That's good. Nothing wrong with that. I can show you the simplest possible program, and it would be easy to do. But there's some characteristics about this one I want to show you. I can clean this up a little bit here. Clean that up. I'm going to clean some stuff up here so I don't have to write a lot of code. Okay, let me see if I get this okay. Okay, this is kind of what your code's going to look like. It'd be good for you to see kind of what it looks like. Okay, to begin with, I drew these various rectangles up on the screen before. You had the HTML head, and then down in here I drew a rectangle. It was just a rectangle. I said, this is the JavaScript. Now this is how HTML deals with JavaScript. Here's what it does. It says, well, if you want to write JavaScript, you have to write this special command right here, which says script language equals JavaScript. And notice it's got chevrons on both sides of it. That's an HTML. That's an HTML language. It says, everything from this line here until down below here where I say /script right here, everything from that line to this line is the JavaScript language. So whatever you write there is written in official JavaScript. So in other words, it's like a sandwich. You have the top piece of bread, you do the JavaScript, and you have the bottom piece of bread. And that's how they did it. That's how they worked it out so that you could actually do another language in HTML. So what happens is HTML comes down, it sees that thing right there. It says, well, that's not my job, and it hands it off to a different computer, a different part of the computer. It says, here, this is JavaScript. It's your job. You go do it. Because you said right there, I'm using JavaScript. I'm not using HTML now. Now, when it reaches the end of that little function, it reaches the end of it, it bumps into the /script. It says, oh, I'm back at JavaScript again. And that's what it does. It brings you back out again. So that's what that little chunk there does. Let's look down below here. Right here you got body. And the first thing I have is I have a thing called input, and I give it a name. Okay, I give it a name. I'm going to change that. I'm going to give it an ID. We call it ID. This is we got a new language here we're working with, so it's called that, and the type is text. Here's what this does. This says I have a piece of text. It's a rectangle. You create one of those rectangles, and what that says is whatever I type into that will just type right in. Notice, you type a word in there, it's in there. And it's like a variable. The name of that variable is sent. I gave it the name sent. You give it anything you want. This is where you make up your own names. So I'm saying the ID of this piece of text that you're typing in is sent, C-E-N-T. So whenever it sees the word sent, it knows it's talking about the words that you typed in that box right there. That's where it gets its name, okay? Now, then what I do here is if you look down, all I do is write the word centimeters on the screen. That's all. The word centimeters is on the screen. What this program does is not relevant. I'm telling you how we write programs that do this kind of business. The first thing we did is I showed you where the JavaScript is located, and now I'm showing you what the input does. The input says, I have some text, and it's called sent. That's the name of that text, okay? Then I put the word centimeters, which you guys would know. Whatever you write down in the body, it just comes out on the screen. It's just on the screen. And now this one right here is the tough one. It's kind of the weird one. I'm going to simplify it right now. I'm going to simplify it down to a little bit. Let me just do a little simplification here. Okay, and I realize this is the first time you've ever seen it, so I'm going to be careful not to confuse you with anything. So here's what happens. The second input I have, it isn't just typed text. It isn't just text. What it is now is it's a button. So you remember when I told you on the screen I said you set up a rectangle, and then you put a button next to it. The first input where it says sent. That's this rectangle where you type stuff in. The second input, its type is button, so it's just going to put this little button right here, okay? And what it does is, whatever you say, equals, how about click, I'm going to change this here, click me. Okay, so here's what the button does. When you say, I have a button, and on the button is the words click me. That's what value does. Value says, put these words on this button. So now what you have is a blank area where you're going to type into, and you have a button that says click me on it. That's what that does so far. So, you know, you just put any word you want in there. I put those words on there. And then when you say on click, what you're saying now, what do you do when they click that button? When they take their mouse and they press that button, what's going to happen? What's going to happen is, it's going to jump up to this function right here. They call it a function. And there it is up here in JavaScript, it's called a function. It's going to jump up to that function, and it's going to bring, another correction here, sorry about this you guys, I got to keep my act together. It's going to take this value right here, and it's going to send it up to this letter C. Now here's what I mean. You typed in something into the variable sent. You typed something in there. So like I typed in banana, for example, okay? Now, what happens then is, on click, what it does is it says whatever you typed in there, the value of whatever you typed in there, send it up to here. And when it arrives up here, the word banana is now C. C knows that word, okay? And then what I could do, if I wanted to, I could send it back up to here if I want to. There's no, I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a program right while we're talking here. Let's see what I'm going to say. Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry. You can't do that yet. I can't do that. I got to make a change here. Don't get excited. I'm going to make a change. Type equals text. Okay, that's good. Make sure I got everything else. Okay, got everything. So up here, here's how this works so far. Down here in the body, I'll get this up in sight. Sorry about this, a little bit rough here. Close all these up so they won't be jumping all over the place. Okay, down here in the body, here's what the program looks like. It says body. The first thing it does is, it has a little rectangle. They put a little rectangle up there, which is called sent, which I type text into. It has a default length. We can change that length, but for now it's just the default. Okay. Then it says the word centimeters. For whatever reason, I don't know. It just says that on the screen. Next thing it does is, so whatever I type in here now is sent is known. That's what it is. If I say you know, apple is now in sent. It's just the variable sent. So wherever I say sent, I'm going to get the word apple because that's what's in there. So what I do is I say, okay, I got another input. This time it's a button. It's not one of those little rectangles. It's a button this time. And on the button it says click me. When I click that button, it's going to jump all the way up to here, and it's going to bring whatever's in the word apple, namely, whatever's in sent with it, up to here. The reason why I put dot value there is because it's possible to send different things besides the contents. Now, as I'm sending up what's inside a sent, I could send up its length, for example. If I put sent.length where it says value, I could send up the length of the word sent, of the word apple. So basically, what there are, this dot gives you different possibilities. But what we're going to use the dot for almost always really, is we're going to say that variable, give us what's in that variable, which is the word apple, send that up to here. So the word apple arrives up here, if the person typed in apple. So now it's up here, and it's called C. Now if I say, down here I gave this the name out. If I say out, dot value equals C, here's what that does. C comes in, C arrives. It's like someone coming in the door and you know their name because it says it right here. That's what's called an argument. The argument changes the name of the function. It's the name of this function here. It's called change. You give it any name you want. I give it the name change. And so what happens is it goes up to change and it brings the word apple with it. Okay? Apple arrives up here and it's now called C. Its name is C. So what I say is take that C and put it in out.value, which is this one down here, which I created down here, which is text also, only it has the name out. So here's what will happen. You have a rectangle. You type in a word here, like I type in Joe right here, and then I hit that button. It takes Joe and sends it up above, and then it puts it in this other rectangle down here, which is called out. So the name of this is out. So now Joe goes into out and it appears on the screen in that little rectangle. So what I've done is I've taken some little word, whatever I did, took it up above, swapped it over to the other text area, and said put it over there. So it did. It puts it over there. It doesn't change the original. It only puts it, copies it to the other one. So this little program does one simple little thing. It simply takes whatever word you type and it puts it in the other area. Okay, I'm going to do this on the board a little bit to show you more detail. But I don't expect you to be able to program after this little demo. But I'm actually showing you what kinds of things you're going to be looking at and what they kind of mean. First of all, you have the usual HTML, the usual head. Only this time we have this script language equals JavaScript, which says we are now about to write JavaScript. This word function is essential. That comes with JavaScript. You say you always have functions up here. A function is merely a place that does something for you. Okay, and you give each function its own name. So in this case right here, we only have one function. You go to that function. The name of it is change. That's the name of it. So you go to the change function, and you bring that argument with you. Whatever is in this sent.value goes up there. And now it comes in, and notice I have open braces and close brace here. Open brace and a close brace. That's how you lock a function together. You say function whatever, and then you have open brace, do the whole function, close brace. So everything's done in that little place. And after it hits this thing, it goes up to the function, opens, does something, closes, and it goes back to where it came from before. So in other words, this function operates and then it's over, it's finished. Nothing else to do. And that's all there is to it. It's that simple. So now what we have is, in general, what we have is a way to, in the body, get information into the web page, how to put in a button, so I press that button, the information goes up to JavaScript, and then up in JavaScript I have a way of doing something with that information. The only thing I'm doing so far is I'm saying this equals that. Notice it goes in the left direction. When you want to put something into out.value into anything on the left-hand side, you put it on the right and put an equal sign, and it takes everything on the right and puts it into the left. That's how all programming languages work. Okay? So everything goes to the left. So that's why I put the C over here and the name out.value over here, because it takes it from C and puts it over to there. What it's transferring is the name, the word that you typed in, whatever that happens to be. Okay? I don't know if I dare actually say it. I don't have to debug this in front of you, so if there's any typos in it, I don't know what we're going to do here, but take a crack at it and try to save it. Convert. Okay, so this right here is the inputting word. Supposing I say tomato. Some say tomato, some say tomato. There's the word centimeters, and there's the click me button. When I click it, see? Nothing to it, right? It took the word from where it was in the body, brought it up above, transferred it to this other little rectangle right here. I can run it again. I can put the spud in there. Put anything in there. And when I click that button, it's transferred over to the other box. So now what you have, which is quite different than you ever have in HTML, you have this device that takes information from you, and you can do anything to it. I mean, all kinds of stuff to it, and then get an answer back or do anything you want. The possibilities are infinite, lots of possibilities. And that's what JavaScript does for you. I'm going to show it to you here again. This is, by the way, if you right-click your mouse and you go to page source, it actually shows you the program. Okay, let me blow it up a little bit here. You see it okay? I gotta bring it down because people at home won't be able to see that. Bring it down a little bit right there. I think that's good. So here's what the program does. I'm going to go one more time. I know this is dragging out, but I want to be sure you get, if you have any questions, ask them now, because Monday I'll be actually going full bore of this. Starts off, I have HTML and head, just like we did before. This time I have a thing that says I'm going to use JavaScript. Then I put in a JavaScript function. I have to have the word function. I made up that word, it could be you want, and I made up that letter, it could be any letter you want, or any word you want. It could be a whole word if you want. But you may ask something logical here is, why do I call it value down here and C up there? It's almost like going into, if you have a bunch of friends, they get a nickname for you. It's almost like that. You go with your friends and they give you a nickname. Your name is this, but they call you that. You don't have to do that. You could give it the exact same name if you wanted to, okay? But JavaScript wouldn't like it too much, because whenever you touch one, the other would be affected. It would get confused. So what you try to do is you try to give JavaScript a different name than it has in the HTML. That helps immensely, believe me. So therefore it's not because you can't do it, it's because in order to do it well, you have to think about it a lot. You start getting mixed up in what you're dealing with. This right here is the simplest way to do it. Keep the HTML names, C-E-N-T, separated from the JavaScript name, which is C. However, whatever that is, gets sent up there and goes right into here. So as you said, no matter what I type in, it goes up and it becomes C, in which case I then send it to the out box. Okay, so you got HTML head, you got JavaScript starts, JavaScript ends, /head. You got to have all those things in there. /head has to be there. Then you start the body. Then you have an input statement, which simply says, I have a variable whose name, it's a text variable, it's just a bunch of words, whose name is sent. And then I put down the word centimeters. I can get rid of it. That doesn't do anything, really. I can just get rid of it. I think. Well, I can't do it here. That's a good point. When you have a program you're working on, pardon me, you can work on it in the original code that you wrote. You can change it in Notepad. But do not try to change it when you say right-click, show me the source. Like right here, for example. This thing is not the code. What this is, if I close this thing right here. See, here's the code. Here's the program running. When I right-click and say show me the code, I can see a picture of the code, but I can't change it. You can't change it there. To change it, what you'd have to do is go back to the original code, which is right here, which is the one I saved in the machine. So if I want to get rid of centimeters, I can do that. I can erase it. Then I can save it again. Then I can run the program again. And notice the word centimeters is gone. Okay? And if I wanted this to feed down to click me or feed down here, I just have to put a BR in the program, just like you do with anything. In fact, let me do that. I'll do it now. I have the original text word, and then I have the button. And right after the button, if I put this, BR, what will happen is they'll be on different lines. Save the thing, run it again, convert. Now it should have word in, click me, and then the word out. So this is Sam right here. Hit click me, and Sam comes up here. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? Okay, I'll on Tuesday I'll start getting into this stuff more, and you'll see it's really a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do. That if you take an HTML in particular, you'll see new things that you've never seen before because they're quite handy. And everything we do here is critical because when we go to the 3D world, we also have to tell it to do something, and it does stuff for us. So we have to say do this, and it has to do it. So we have to constantly communicate with the program and get this interaction going. And to do that, this is the beginning of it. This starts to get our power to grab a hold of things to do so. That's about it for how I'm doing. I'm okay. So if what I'll do now is I'm going to show the videos that I had for the online videos, a couple of little ones, and that's it. So if you haven't given me anything, the program you're supposed to write, you can do that this weekend, don't worry about that. Get it by next week sometime. But you do have to get your email address. If you haven't sent that to me yet, do that. Okay? And if you have any trouble getting on Alta Vista, anyway, send me an email. We'll work it out. And that's it. I'm just going to go to the computer now.